Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. This week we're going to be talking about range hoods, and we'd like to thank Charla Brewster for liking and sharing the podcast. One of the first patents for a fan-operated vent hood was in 1926, and in 1932 Henry Broen started making vent fans, and Broen still has top-rated hood vents. Vent-A-Hood started in 1933 and has the Magic Lung blower system. It's considered one of the quietest blowers. And the Magic Lung is designed to prevent stovetop fires from spreading into the ductwork.
Yeah,
And I just like the sound of Magic Lung.
apparently.
There are four main types of range hood vent systems: under cabinet, wall mount, island, and downdraft. And the under cabinet's very popular. The range hood mounts to a small upper wall cabinet above the range or the cooktop, and you're usually going to have about 20 to 30 inches between the cooking surface and the hood vent, and that range hood will be the width of the range, or around 30 inches wide if you have a drop-in cooktop, and it's generally going to extend to cover about half of the front burners or coils, and that way it doesn't get in the way of your head. If you're replacing an under-cabinet hood vent and you don't like the look of a traditional hood, there are ventilator power pack hoods.
What's that?
So these insert into the upper wall cabinet and fit almost flush to the bottom, so you see very little of the unit.
Oh, this is the picture that you showed me the other day?
Yeah, they're almost invisible. And if
Right.
you're remodeling, you can get custom cabinets with the power pack hood vent, as one unit.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these have pull-out sections to help trap steam and fumes while you're cooking. And with this style, you're not going to have room to store anything in that upper cabinet.
Right, because it takes up the whole thing, right?
Right. If you don't have a cabinet above your range or cooktop, you can have a wall mount range hood. And these look like a range hood with a duct or a chimney coming out of the top of it. And it can end at the ceiling if you're venting straight up and out, or it could stop short of the ceiling if you're venting out horizontally.
If you're remodeling, this is a nice option instead of installing that small cabinet that nothing fits in.
Right. And they're very eye-catching. You can get a variety of shapes and material. And similar looking are island hoods, and these are for cooktops in an island. They're ceiling mounted and usually higher above the cooking surface so you can see through the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And because it's higher, it's usually going to be wider than the cooking surface to catch moisture and smoke because it spreads out as it rises. And the ceiling mounted hoods will generally be more powerful. Downdraft hood vents are used for islands and areas where it'd be difficult to install a vent above your cooking surface.
My cousin has one of these.
How is it?
Super cool.
Yeah. Well, it's neat because it actually the vent part rises up out of the countertop 7 to 9 inches. Yes. And it draws the air across the cooking surface. They're usually around 30 inches wide and 30 inches tall inside the cabinet or the island. And they're not as effective as a hood above your cooking surface, but it's going to help the air quality. And a lot of kitchen designers prefer the downdraft to the ceiling mount hoods because the ceiling mount hoods can block the view in the kitchen.
Right. Are the downdraft systems vented?
They can be vented through a duct under the cabinet.
Where's it going?
So if you have a crawl space, you'd go under the floor and you'd go out like a rim joist out the side of the house. Or if you have a basement, you'd go into the basement and out a rim joist out of the side of the house.
So if you're on a slab, it's not?
Right, yeah, then you're in trouble. Then you're going to have unvented. And that's one of the features to compare when you're shopping for a hood vent. Is it ducted or ductless? There's also convertible, which can do either or. A ducted hood is the preferred system. It's improving air quality by removing cooking gases, grease, smoke, steam, and odor out of the house through a vent up through the roof or out of the side of the building. And it also helps remove heat when you're cooking in the summer. And you can use a ducted vent to control humidity levels in your home if you have hardwood floors or you're scared of dust mites. Iowa State University had a study showing 51% of the fuel-burning kitchen ranges they tested raised CO levels above 9 parts per million.
Is that bad?
Well, the EPA says you should be in an environment with CO levels at 9 parts per million for more than 8 hours.
So yes.
And this should only happen once a year.
Mm-hmm.
So the Iowa State University recommends always using ducted hood vents whenever you're using a gas range, and never use a range to heat your home. It'll deplete the oxygen levels and increase CO to dangerous levels.
How do the ductless hoods work?
So these
That's hard to
hoods,
say. Ductless?
are pulling air through an activated carbon filter to remove odor and smoke particles, and then that air is just recycled back into the kitchen. The activated carbon in these filters are usually created by heating wood, coconut shells, or bamboo in a vacuum and then injecting it with chemicals or steam, and that makes it extra porous. And they're actually very good at trapping smoke, odors, and VOCs. They call it adsorption, so it's ADSORPTION. The pollutants are sticking to the surface, and you have to replace the filters regularly because once all the exposed surfaces are covered with these particles, it can't adsorb anything else. And depending on how often you cook or you're burning food,
So how good you are at cooking?
right, you're going to need to replace the filters every 2 to 6 months, but check your manual to see what they recommend. You know, ancient Egyptians figured out that charcoal helped remove odors and thought it could help people with infections by cleaning bad air. And whiskey is aged in charred barrels to filter out bad flavors, and then most are run through charcoal for additional filtering.
Who knew? What type of filters do the ducted hood vents have? Ducted. That's a weird word, too.
So on ducted hood vents, you're going to have grease filters, and they're usually made out of aluminum or stainless steel, and that's trapping grease and oils. Many of the manufacturers are recommending washing them once a month. And
I don't think I ever washed mine.
Okay, new routine. And some manuals are saying you can clean them in a dishwasher with non-phosphate detergent, but the grease can actually clog some dishwasher filters and drains. I read an article that said kitchen cabinets, walls, and ceilings can accumulate gallons of grease every year if you don't use a hood vent when you're cooking.
That's gross. So when I first moved into my condo,
Okay.
they had a mosaic backsplash.
So tile.
Yeah, and it was gross.
Right.
But the amount of grease that was on it, so apparently
Yeah.
they never used the hood vent
Yeah, it's amazing.
before. Yeah, it was
Some of the
really
homes
nasty.
I remodeled and some of the foreclosures I got is just amazing. The ceiling, and
Yeah.
we had to try to strip them, and we would use TSP, which is pretty aggressive,
Right.
and then we'd have to prime over that so that paint would stick to it. Otherwise, it just kind of rolled off. So to remove grease from walls, the Iowa State University Extension recommends 50% white vinegar and 50% warm water in a spray bottle. Spray it on an area, let it set for a few minutes, and then wipe it down with rags.
That would have been good to know before. What are you comparing when you're looking at different models?
For power, you want to compare the CFMs, or cubic feet per minute, and this is a measurement for how much air the hood vent is moving. For moderate-priced under-cabinet vents, 160 to 300 CFMs is common, and this is good for a standard range or cooktop. The Home Ventilation Institute recommends about 40 CFM per linear foot of range width. So for a standard range or cooktop, if you have a 30-inch wide range, for example, that would be 2.5 feet times 40 would give you 100 CFMs.
Math.
So they're recommending if you have a 30-inch range, 100 CFM would be the minimum, up to 250 CFM. A 36-inch range, 120 CFM to 300. For high output or professional cooktops, so they have much higher BTUs for their burners,
Right.
they want you to use 100 CFMs per linear foot for wall mount or under cabinet hoods, and 150 CFMs per linear foot for island hoods. Some manufacturers recommend using the range of the cooktop's BTUs and then divide it by 100 for the CFMs. The average gas range is around 40,000 BTUs for 4 burners, or around 10,000 BTUs for each burner.
Okay.
But bigger or smaller burners are going to have higher or lower BTUs, so you'll add them all up. Some will have 5 burners or special high output burners, so you can boil water faster. It handles bigger cookware. I've seen some individual burners as high as 17,000 BTUs.
Exciting.
So for a 40,000 BTU range, the CFMs would be around 400. So that's 40,000 divided by 100, giving you 400 CFMs. And that's going to handle all 4 burners going at the same time. If you don't cook that often or never use all 4 burners at the same time, you could go less than the 400 CFMs. And electric cooktops don't require as many CFMs because you don't have that burning gas to remove.
What if your cooktop has a grill?
Then you should add another 100 to 200 CFMs. And when your hood vent is 400 CFMs or higher, in most communities you're going to need to add a makeup air system. The International Residential Code says exhaust hoods in excess of 400 CFMs require makeup air approximately equal to the exhaust air rate, and many areas require auto start with a pressure switch and an inline heater for cold climates and cooling for hot climates. The makeup air systems have an air damper that's opening and closing to draw air into the kitchen from the outside when your hood vent's on. So you have a duct that's coming from the outside to a dedicated grill in the kitchen, or it might connect to the cold air return of a forced air system. And that extra air is going to allow the hood vent to move the maximum amount of air without causing depressurization. And if you have an energy efficient airtight house, a high CFM hood vent can actually cause backdrafts from fuel burning appliances like water heaters or fireplaces. So it can pull smoke or CO into the house.
So that's not good.
Yeah, pretty wild. So some of the top rated makeup air systems are from Fantech. It's Fantech, Broan, Broan, Nutone, it's Nutone, or Whirlpool.
You're not going to spell that.
Whirlpool.
Thank you. How loud are hood vents?
When you're comparing the models, the sound level is going to be measured in sones. It's SONE, kind of like bathroom exhaust fans. So they compare one sone to a refrigerator running and normal conversation around 4 sone. The higher the CFMs, the louder the vent's going to be. So you want the best CFMs at the lowest sones. If you're looking at the Z-Line range hoods, so it's ZLINE, they measure their sound in decibels.
Okay.
One sone's going to be about 40 decibels, 4 sone around 60 decibels. You want to look for multiple fan speeds. More speeds or variable speed is going to give you more control on your venting depending on what you're cooking, and it's also going to control your noise level.
Do range hoods come with LED lights?
So some do, but most companies are still using incandescent or halogen bulbs. LEDs are sensitive to heat, so if you've got an LED enclosed in the hood and over a cooktop, it's going to shorten its life. And if you have a hood where you have a halogen light and you're replacing it with an LED, you should look for something that's rated as heat resistant.
Okay.
When you're comparing the hoods, the best lighting is going to be with multiple light settings or multiple bulbs. So look at the lumen output and multiple light settings. It's going to be easier to see what you're cooking. Some of these have night lights. And if you're comparing halogen or incandescent, the hoods that come with halogen lights are going to be more energy efficient. Some hood vents have heat sensors, so they'll automatically turn on, and some have auto shut-off. You can set a predetermined time once you turn it on, when it'll turn off. And you can get ADA compliant vents, and these have an option for wall-mounted rocker switches for the control, so you don't have to reach up to the vent.
Okay.
If you're replacing an under-cabinet hood vent, you want to look at the depth. The most common sizes are 20 inches, 22, 24, and 27 inches deep. 20 and 24 are common. Most upper wall cabinets are going to be 12 inches or 13 inches deep. So I would measure the depth of your upper wall cabinet and look at the hood where it angles down in front, and then match that to the front edge of the cabinet. I think it looks better. The further it extends, the more steam and smoke and odors it'll vent, but too big can get in your way. For wall mountain island hoods, many manufacturers recommend going 3 inches wider than the cooktop on each side, and look at the recommended height above the cooking surface for the best performance. It can be anywhere from 20 to 30 inches depending on the shape, the CFMs, and the type of hood. And if you're replacing a range hood, look at the duct size so you can connect easily to the existing duct. 6 inches and 7 inches round are common. Also rectangular, 3 1/4 by 10 inches. Because if you go to a high CFM hood, they could want duct as big as 10 inches.
Wow.
You should clean your grease filters regularly. Some companies recommend monthly. If you have painted or stainless steel, you should clean it regularly with warm water and mild soap and a soft cloth. You never want to use abrasive cloths or sponges. And if you have stainless steel, wipe in the direction of the lines, and you can protect stainless steel with a stainless steel polish.
What are some top-rated companies?
Nutone, it's Nutone, Broan, Broan, Whirlpool, I spelled that earlier. KitchenAid, Ventahood, so it's VENT-A-HOOD, AKDY,
That's separate.
Yeah, that's a company, AKDY. Cosmo, COSMO. Another company is just called BV, just the letter B and V. And then Z-Line, it's Z-L-I-N-E, and they have some wild copper and wood hood vents.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else to add?
A ducted hood vent is going to be the best. It's actually going to improve the air quality in your home. When you're comparing hoods, look for multiple light settings. You're going to get better lighting, multiple fan speeds, and then match the CFMs to your range or cooktop.
Let's wrap this up.
You can subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Player FM, or your favorite podcast app.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
And you can subscribe to that as well.
You can download our books, Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, book 1 through 5 on Amazon.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a 5-star rating and review.
You can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com, and you can follow Cindy on Twitter at FixItCohost.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.